We're off, my friend.
Okay.
Right, welcome back. We're joined by the fine fellow that is Andrew Bloch for this month's September's review of the biggest PR pitches and mergers and acquisitions in the UK PR scene this September in 2025. Welcome back to the show. And as I say, we're here to discuss the biggest pitch wins and M&A activity that the sector has seen recently. For those of you that don't know, Andrew is lead consultant, PR, content, social and influencer at the new business consultancy firm AAR and a partner at PCB Partners, where he advises on buying and selling of marketing services agencies. The big news here is that the Creative Moment Awards have sold out. So that's fantastic news. Thank you all so much within that community for your support. Massively appreciate it. And really looking forward to the big night in a couple of weeks' time. The PR Moment events caravan has renewed, I think it's fair to say, over the summer. So we've got a couple of really interesting events coming up. One is all about, we've got a fascinating webinar on GEO, misinformation and the news, which really does move that GEO debate on a bit. And it's a white hot debate right now, I'm aware, within public relations. But do sign up to that free webinar to hear a really interesting perspective on what's going on in that area. All the details on the homepage of prmoment.com, where you also see another face-to-face event, this one all about PR planning. I do have this hypothesis, I suppose, that PR planning or planning, I should say, is one of the most interesting and most important areas of public relations right now. And that event really does bring the key themes and the key trends and all you need to know within PR planning and what's happening in that sector at the moment. So do attend that if that's something you are interested in. That one's also free, so great to get as many people along to that event as possible. It's in London on the 21st of October. Also, thanks so much, as ever, to our PLM podcast sponsors, the PRCA. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ben. I hope you had a lovely summer. Good to be back.
I did. Well, we were chatting before. I've had a wisdom tooth out, so I've had my summer has been punctuated by jaw ache, so it hasn't been quite the summer I was perhaps hoping for. But the good news is I'm much better now to talk to the likes of you than I was a few weeks back.
Good. Pleased to hear it.
Did you have a good one?
I did. It was lovely being out, about, around, and back at work.
Brilliant. Yes, it's one of those summers. I think a lot of people I've spoken to were hoping for a nice summer off because it's been a full-on 6 months. It hasn't quite worked out like that, has it? It's busy out there.
I think it's been a really interesting summer. That sort of quiet period doesn't seem to have come. I mean, I was away quite a lot over the summer, but it wasn't kind of phone off, no work. There was constantly stuff going on, and maybe the last week or so has been a little bit quiet, just as people sort of finally take that break before getting back into it when schools go back and stuff like that. But yeah, didn't feel like a slowdown at all for me, and judging by the amount of wins and the amount of M&A stuff that we're going to talk through, nothing stopped.
Yeah, I mean, so we actually brought the recording of this forward, I think, didn't we? Because we're going to have too much to go through. So we thought we'd best get on with it. I mean, just before we kick off, how do you see the market? I have this vague theory at the moment. It's kind of a third. A third of people are not doing quite as well as they'd like. A third are doing all right, and a third doing doing very well.
I'd broadly agree with that. I mean, I don't have the exact stats to back it up, but it's busy. The market, there is lots going on. I think we're entering a critical time, the golden quarter, as they call it, where I think it will make or break a lot of firms' years. Certainly the first bit of the year was steady, but a bit slower than people would have liked. The pace has upped. What we've seen over the summer is a lot of decisions being made to get stuff in place for Christmas, for the new year. And I think that's going to continue. I would imagine next month will be an even busier month, but for some, they're finding it a bit tougher. I think the best agencies continue to move forward at a pace. The ones that aren't quite as well run, that are perhaps a bit overgeared in terms of staff members or reliance on certain accounts that haven't spent as much as they would have liked, they're the ones that are facing perhaps slightly tougher times. But in my mind, the market is buoyant, and if you're a well-structured agency and you're well run, there's no reason why you shouldn't be winning business and growing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, is it? It's not that post-COVID boom where sort of 15-20% growth was almost what people were expecting of themselves. It's not like that. It's quite a bit south of that, but sort of mid-single digit growth seems to be about norm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think running an agency is never easy, but it's certainly tougher. And I think the need to look at costs is imperative now. You know, office costs have gone up, staff costs have gone up, client spending has not necessarily proportionately risen in the same amount. So keeping an eye on margins is really, really important. And yeah, I think anyone that's doing double-digit growth is doing very well at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many that are, but the people do seem to be growing. The other ones you've got to innovate, haven't you? I mean, that's the thing. It's in any business, publishing, consultancy. You've got to keep reinventing the wheel, otherwise people overtake you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're not moving forward and you're just standing still, effectively you're moving backwards. So you have to keep innovating, and that's the one thing about PR that I think is so fascinating, is that it never stops. It's always evolving. Technology, new ways of doing things. You know, what we're seeing with AI at the moment is it's completely disrupting the industry, and some people are going to make a lot of hay out of that. Others are going to struggle, but you need to understand it and get to grips with it from an efficiencies point of view and also from an advisory point of view.
I vaguely get to my understanding of it. Then there's another update, so you've got to start from go again. But anyway, that's a whole nother debate, Andrew. Let's move on to our pitches. A massive one and a slightly controversial one to start with. But anyway, COP30 have appointed Edelman. Just tell us about the deal.
They have. So Edelman have been appointed to handle the comms activity around Brazil's hosting of the summit, which takes place in November. It's been controversial largely because of Brazil as a nation and whether there's an element of greenwashing involved. But yeah, they're in the best possible hands with Edelman. It's a significant account. It's worth $834,000 from sort of mid-July through to mid-February. That's obviously public information, and it is quite a broad-ranging brief. Edelman are going to be hosting strategy workshops with the presidency team. They're going to do all the media relations, oversee the social media output. There's a whole load of sort of strategic stakeholders involved that they need to engage. There's crisis management plans. It's a big, weighty brief and an exciting one. Must be a brilliant bit of business to work on.
Yeah, I mean, Edelman, there was quite a bit of heated discussion from Edelman and COP30's perspective, wasn't there, on greenwashing accusations on that? But that's probably one for another podcast on another day.
Yes.
But also news from Weber Shandwick.
Yes, Weber Shandwick have won another sizable tourism brief, effectively. It's a brief to look after the Tokyo Metro government. It's worth $1.7 million for the year. This is all about sort of supporting the speeches of the Tokyo's governor, analysing the news coverage of Japan, promoting Tokyo as a business hub. Again, another sort of fascinating brief. And we see that, you know, the big network agencies are often the best place to handle these types of complicated, multi sort of stakeholder type briefs.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We won't go into a lot of the wins we cover on this because it's kind of a UK pitch win show. A little bit south of those sorts of pitch numbers, aren't they? I mean, that's you've got two massive pitches there, and it's interesting, and I guess how you would expect an international agency to take both of those, isn't it? But it is an interesting point, which won't dwell on too much, that the big network agencies do still dominate those international briefs, don't they?
Sometimes you need that network to have the coordination, the different offices, the range of skill sets. You know, they're not straightforward briefs. They are sizable in terms of budget, but they're also sizable in terms of workload. And I think for the scope of work that's involved, they're having to work hard for that money. I mean, you do see independents win big bits of business like that. There's no reason why it has to be via a networked agency in the sort of traditional sense. There's lots of informal networks, partnerships that happen. I think that's the market, right? You've got choice. As a buyer, you've got choice. Exactly. I mean, almost to disprove my hypothesis, next one we're going to talk about is a nice win for Rooster, right? Yes, Rooster, kind of right in their heartland of travel, have won Morocco National Tourist Office. This is a UK and Ireland brief to promote tourism in the region. They've worked with them in the past. They've done lots of projects. 1.2 million people visited Morocco, making it one of Africa's top tourist destinations. I was one of them. It's a lovely place. But they're also co-hosting the World Cup in 2030. So I would imagine they're gearing up to that as well. But, you know, Rooster, specialists in travel and tourism, do a brilliant job consistently for a whole range of tourist offices, destinations, hotels. They're best in class when it comes to this type of work. So I'm sure they'll be delighted to be working with Morocco.
Did you enjoy your visit to Morocco, Andrew?
I loved it. I think it's a great place. It's got something for everyone. So yeah, no, I really did like it.
Nice touch. And news from the Romans.
Yes, the Romans, couple of wins from them, as you perhaps expect for an agency that seems to win month in, month out. They've won, it's a business that you probably won't be familiar with, the holding company. It's Ethara Events and Entertainment. They are the people that host the Etihad Airways GP. They also look after UFC fight nights, the NBA Abu Dhabi Games, lots of after race concerts for stuff that goes on in the Middle East. It's a dream client really for any UAE based agency. And this brief is B2B and B2C, supporting their corporate work, all the different events, the venues that they host, lots of thought leadership, media relations, campaigns, support on site. So yeah, it's a great win for the Romans, the relatively sort of early stages of their venture into the UAE. But they have already managed to win things like Audi, Wynn Resorts, Binance. So yeah, impressive in the region for sure.
Right. And they had a second win you can talk about as well.
Yeah, the second win actually crosses both Middle East and the UK. It's for W Hotels, and they've won EMEA PR strategy for the global hotel brand. There is sort of content series that goes with this, something called Hotel Tales, which is really nice. It's sort of, I think W as a brand, it blends luxury with a bit of irreverence and attracts a certain type of traveller. So yeah, this crosses both offices for the Romans. They've also got an office in New York and one in Amsterdam as well, but this is their Dubai and London offices.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for an agency like the Romans who are trying to build up that a multi-geographical office offer, wins like that are really important, aren't they?
Yeah, significant win, significant brand, lots of opportunity for organic growth, I would imagine, with different hotels around the world doing different types of stuff, having different types of requirements. So yeah, significant win for them.
Right. Another interesting one, Brands to Life.
Yeah, this is a biggie. They have won the corporate and public affairs for Lidl. Lidl are now the 5th biggest supermarket in the UK by food and drink sales, 35,000 employees, 980 stores. It's a corporate and public affairs brief. I think there was a nice quote that I read around this win. It says, "We're going to build and paint the reputation in a way that is commensurate with its economic and social impact across the nation." And you can read into that what you want, but it says to me that Lidl holds this sort of special place in the hearts of the nations, and it says to me that whilst it's a corporate and public affairs brief, it will sort of veer into consumer and some sort of more emotional sort of media storytelling type work. I mean, there will be within it sort of leadership comms, crisis mitigation, that sort of stuff. But Lidl is a category defining business. It's a great win for Brands to Life. They wouldn't have necessarily, in my mind, been the obvious choice. They're not a pure play corporate and PA agency, but they've got some significant clients in this area: LinkedIn, Tetra Pak, Vodafone, Zero. So, and they're an agency that is, they're a great agency that excels really in whatever they put their hand to.
Yeah, and they're another one who started in tech and have evolved their offer, haven't they, over the years, so that now they've won some big accounts, very much outside of tech, and doing, as you say, corporate public affairs work. I guess as a If you did own a big agency now, that's where you'd want to evolve it, isn't it, into that strategy, corporate affair work. So
yeah, no, it's great to see
yeah.
them winning in an area that isn't necessarily their heartland. So
well, Giles Fraser will be on the phone soon, Andrew. He would. I think he might say that it's becoming their heartland. I don't know. Another agency on the roll is Pretty Green, right? I mean, they've had a stonking year as far as I can work out.
They have. I mean, it's always interesting with an agency like Pretty Green. Like, you know, that they were super hot, then they sort of seem to quieten off a bit, and they are definitely super hot at the moment. I don't think there's a person in the country that didn't see Peppa Pig and the baby announcement and all of the brilliant work they did around that. And I genuinely think the work they did there has been a big igniter of interest in the agency. They've won Homesense.
To be fair, they were doing good work before that, but I definitely agree. That was the sort of champagne moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I didn't mean that in a disparaging way. I think, you know, it's the sort of campaign that any agency would love to have created and worked on and you sort of looked at in envy. But it's without a doubt, it's one of those campaigns where brands look at it and think, whoever did that, we want them. It's the dream for an agency to have such a high profile campaign. So I would have thought it would have an impact on all of their new business. You know, clearly a great agency anyway, doing good work. So they've won the consumer PR, influencer and social, so quite broad ranging brief for Homesense. They're TK Maxx's sort of sister home furnishing brand. TK Maxx actually appointed Burson last month, if you remember, we talked about that. So they've clearly decided to keep the two bits of the business separate. And yes, you know, good run for Pretty Green. They won PG Tips recently. They also won Tesco's, which was a real biggie for them. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be quiet for the next year. So
I seem to have got hit upon a little sweet spot, not exclusive sweet spot for Pretty Green, but that experiential PR and social is a nice area to be in, right?
Great area to be in. So yeah, great agency.
And in the fitting room, an agency that's certainly come onto my radar in recent years, and they've had another good win.
Yeah, they have. They're an agency. I don't think we've talked about them on the podcast before. They're an agency that, I mean, you'd know their brands probably more than you would know them as an agency. I think they're pretty small as an agency, 20-ish, 25 people, but brilliantly run, lots of energy, lots of dynamism behind the brand. They've won Wasabi, Sushi and Bento. So this is consumer comms across 41 stores, plus all their ready meals that are
right in their sweet spot. It's perfect.
Yeah, they've got they look after brands like German Doner Kebab, Popeyes, Pho. So they've got lots of food, and also the kind of quite, I don't know if it's the right, like cool street vibe to their food. They look after Box Park as well as another one of their clients. And then they also do things like GoDaddy. They do work for Instagram. But this is a nice win for them. Wasabi is a great brand. Previously was being run in-house. Always nice to see stuff go from in-house into agencies. So yeah, good win for them.
If you're on TikTok, as well as checking out PR Moment on TikTok, you should check out Charlotte Mayer, who's the founder of the Fitting Room. What is she? TFR Charlotte. She's got a few more followers than us. 141,000 followers, and one of her posts had 12.7 million views. So she's doing all right on TikTok as well. A win from Exposure, who an agency who continue to do well, right?
Yeah, I mean, Exposure have consistently been one of the great agencies of our time for the last 20, 25 years. They've won Itsu Grocery, creative comms around a new rice noodle range. And this is all about sort of reframing instant noodles as a modern, desirable mealtime option, shifting consumer perception, earning attention, making some noise in a space which, you know, is probably due for a bit of a refresh. Itsu brand, been around now for 30 odd years, founded by Julian Metcalf, who was the guy who founded Pret. It's in most major supermarkets. It's a good brief for Exposure, you know, refreshing a category that they're all about helping brands jump onto trends or be part of popular culture. They look after brands like William Grant, Coke, Fortnum & Mason. I think Itsu's in good hands there.
Fine. And Edison have got a newish roster. Is that right?
Yeah, they've added to their roster. So they've added Pretty Green, who we've just talked about, and Tin Man to their roster. This is specifically around the Big Knit, which is that initiative where they put little woolen knitted hats on top of the bottles for a period of time to raise money for Age UK. Frank handled the campaign last year. I think the year before, they're still on the roster. Pretty Green, I think, are going to be doing some influencer campaigns around some new products. They want to talk a bit more about immunity and health shots and the benefits of those. There's also a campaign they're talking about to do with educating parents around their juicy water product. So I think this is a brand that obviously has a lot to talk about, that either wants to sort of split out products and messages between agencies or potentially make the creative process a little bit more competitive in terms of getting agencies on the roster to pitch for specific briefs. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they now have 3 best-in-class consumer agencies, all slightly different, slightly nuanced in terms of their specialisms, but effectively 3 of the best creative agencies out there working on their business.
Right, I guess is what a roster is all about, really. It's why you have one. Now, every PR person I've ever met who's worked on the Lego account loved it. And Lego have got a new agency.
They have. They've appointed Smarts to handle their UK and Irish consumer PR. It's actually their first new agency in 8 years, so clearly a loyal
the previous
one.
agency had a good run and done good work, hadn't it? I think we should probably recognise that.
Yeah. Great work. I mean, big shoes to fill. I would imagine Smarts are absolutely delighted and hoping for an 8-year run themselves. And Smarts are on a good run. They recently won Asda, People's Postcode Lottery. There's a real energy around the agency at the moment. And Lego's
they seem to be winning big accounts, though, don't they? I don't know that. I presume that's a deliberate strategy, but I don't know. It's just the ones we hear about. But the ones we hear about from Smart seem to be quite significant pieces of business.
They are. They're big accounts. I mean, look, they're a big agency. They're part of MSQ. We talked about this on the last podcast. They tend to be sort of winning these almost like fabric of the nation type brands. They've clearly got a good formula for mixing consumer with social and influencer work, which I would imagine is a big part of the Lego brief. But since Greg Jones sort of came in as CEO a couple of years ago, he's really upped the game of what was already a very strong agency. I mean, you wouldn't want to go up against them in a pitch. I've seen them pitch. They're phenomenal.
Are they? He's got a good team there. He has. Firstlight, a big win for them, it feels, right?
I feel like every win this month is a big win, but there have been a lot of significant wins over the summer period. So Specsavers, they've been appointed as the retained comms agency for the UK. They have worked with them on projects on and off for the last 3-4 years. They're helping them on strategic comms to help enhance their corporate reputation and build them as an employer brand, including stuff like raising awareness of the role that Specsavers play in making eye and hearing care accessible, their presence on the high street, their position as a major UK employer. So this is a big win. They will sit alongside Golin, they sit alongside Tangerine, who both have big chunks of that Specsavers business. But a good win for Firstlight. Again, I don't think it's an agency that we've talked about or mentioned previously on the podcast. They're an integrated comms consultancy. They got some lovely retained clients, people like eBay, Addison Lee, Shivas Brothers. This is another iconic brand to add to their roster.
Yeah, we know them. They're friends of the mag. They come to Civic Founders Club and various other events. So they're doing good work. And another independent that has just consistently done good work. And guess what? They've grown over the years. It's just. It's how it is. Ripple Effect, which is a really interesting, much newer business, but they've had a good win. It's a nice win. They've won something called Street Soccer London, and Street Soccer London are the official Team England partner for the Homeless World Cup, which takes place in Oslo later this year. They're also going to be handling, as well as handling the PR, they're also going to be the official team sponsor themselves. So you're going to see the Ripple Effect logo
on
Nice
the
cut.
front of the shirt. And what Street Soccer London's all about is using football as a tool for positive change in the lives of young people who've sadly been affected by homelessness or criminal justice system or social exclusion, people that are seeking asylum, that kind of. So really important work. But I'm going to follow this with interest. So.
Right. And news from PHA Group?
Yeah, PHA have had a couple of wins over the summer. The first is for Police Care UK, which is a charity that serves veteran police officers and staff, volunteers, their families who suffered any sort of physical or psychological harm as a result of policing. So they're going to be supporting with developing a refined messaging framework and a communications activation plan, helping Police Care UK to identify the sort of people that they need to be talking to and what they need to be saying, where they need to be saying, all of that kind of stuff. So quite complicated work, interesting work, important work. And then completely separately to that, they've also won Shield Pay, which is the UK's leading digital payments platform for the professional services sector. And this is more press office work, which is focusing on raising their profile as a trusted voice. In secure, compliant payment, there's a sort of focus on the Solicitors Regulation Authority and ongoing consultation into how client money should be managed within legal practice.
Quite a serious brief then, that one.
Yeah, quite a serious brief. But I mean, again, in their sweet spot. I think with PHA, they're very good at both corporate and consumer and quite complicated messaging work. They're very good at the press office side of things, and it's been all change at PHA recently. So I'm sure they're happy to get a couple of wins under their belts.
News from John Doe.
Yes, they have won Vinted, which, as many people may know, is an online marketplace where you can buy and exchange new or secondhand clothes, accessories. And this is a press office all about driving cultural relevance and making Vinted, or helping Vinted, I should say, go on their mission to become pre-loved first choice port of call and go in time beyond fashion into other verticals. So this is good. This is right in John Doe's sweet spot, the heart of culture and popular culture, bringing brands into culture. They've had a really good year. They grew 7% last year. They've got some nice clients: Guinness, Iron Brew, Instagram, Glenmorangie. So they'll be really pleased with this. Really interesting brief.
And news from Islate.
Yes, they have won Jigsaw, the British women's wear brand, which is sort of timeless approach to design, but they're going through this chapter of change and regrowth after, I think it's probably fair to say, quite a tough few years. And Islate, again, a new agency, I think, to the podcast. Potentially we've mentioned them once before, but they look after lots and lots of leading luxury brands. This is right in their heartland. They're going to be doing brand profiling, news, feature placements, product seeding, all of that kind of stuff.
Fine. Good. And news from Mint Velvet.
Yes, sticking with British women's wear. They have appointed Emerge. Mint Velvet is women's wear accessories as well. Emerge are going to be handling the consumer PR, press office, development of campaigns, some events, that kind of stuff. This was previously handled in-house. Emerge have quite a nice range of clients. I would say that sort of at the premium end or mass premium end, brands like Third Space, The Gym, Astrid and Miu, Grind, Abercrombie and Fitch, some really lovely brands. And Mint Velvet is a nice addition to that roster.
Right. Interesting podcast fact of the day that the co-founder of Mint Velvet was Liz Houghton, who is the wife of Richard Houghton, who many of the listeners may know from his time at Fleischmann and various other agencies. And I think had a column in one of our inferior rivals for a little while as the agency doctor. So a nice win there. Also news from Milk and Honey. Yes, they've won Hexclad Cookware, which I don't know if it's just me, but I can't seem to go onto Instagram or TikTok without seeing Gordon Ramsay promoting the pots, pans, knives range of cookware from Hexclad. So this is a consumer and corporate brief plus some influencer work and issues management. Really, really nice. They're also, the brand has got an involvement in this, what they call a culinary council,
which features chefs who test products, develop recipes, so they're going to be working around that as well. So yeah, lovely one there for milk.
Nice win. Are you into your cookware, Andrew? No, fine.
Ish.
Right. And a nice win by the sounds of it from McCann Birmingham.
Yes, they've won Stagecoach, the bus and coach operator, consumer PR job. There's this campaign or brand promise that's called We've Got You. They're going to be working around that campaign. It's all about engaging current customers, attracting new ones who typically may not use a bus or a coach. Again,
train prices go up and up. Stagecoach and buses seem to represent good value, it seems to me. So more of that, I guess.
They've clearly got to you already as an advocate. I
don't know whether I'm anti-train prices or pro bus, but either way they've got me, I guess. SodaStream is another brand we all consumers of a certain vintage anyway seem to love, and they've also got a new PR firm.
Yeah, SodaStream have done the rounds with agencies. A client I worked on many years ago, but they're now owned by PepsiCo. They have appointed Visible to do the press office creative comms. Visible, again, not an agency that I think has been mentioned before on the podcast, but a fantastic agency, specifically in the food and drink sector. They look after people like Little Moons, Flying Tiger on the retail side of things. But this is all about embedding SodaStream into popular culture. I mean, there's also a fantastic sustainability story there.
Yeah.
So nice win for them. Very happy for them.
I love fizzy drinks myself, so I'm not the perfect customer, but Visible are even more visible than before, which takes us on to M&A. A pretty busy month it seems to be on this side as well. Before we kick off, just give us I'm conscious the show's going to go on a bit too long, but just give us a brief overview of the M&A scene. Is it busy? Is it a waiting game? Where are we at?
It is busy. It's really, really busy at the moment. I think what we see over the summer is we're seeing a lot of deals announced where people were trying to get the deals in before the summer.
Okay.
You're going to see a lot in the latter half of the year as people try and get the deals in within this calendar year. But certainly a lot of activity, and the activity is a real mix of everything from the big private equity through to holding groups, some of the newer emerging holding groups, through to independents. There's quite a lot of mergers and making sense of disparate bits within agencies that need to come together. But it's the busiest from a personal perspective that I've ever been in the M&A space. I mean, it's a daily sort of call from an agency wanting to acquire or looking to be sold. I mean, it's relentless at the moment, and in a good way.
Where's the balance of the market? I mean, presumably there's more sellers than buyers, are there? I would imagine. Is that still the fair to say?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of the big private equity are very, very cash rich and acquisitive at the moment, and looking to get a head start in terms of building groups and networks. I think the only bit that's potentially slowed down a little bit is sort of some of the bigger holding groups, which are more in consolidation phases. But even there, they are making sort of specific strategic acquisitions to boost skill sets or geographies. So
not always within PR, to be fair, but
no, not always.
Right. News from Real Chemistry to kick us off.
So okay, let's kick off. So Real Chemistry have acquired Greater Than One, who are a New York-based healthcare comms agency. They do marketing as well. This is about bringing sort of expanded precision, stronger sort of performance analytics, greater strategic capabilities to Real Chemistry's clients. And what Greater Than One do is offer this kind of big suite of data, predictive modeling, predictive planning tools. They're, relatively sizable, 50-ish people, revenues of about $28 million. Great for them. They're going to gain access to Real Chemistry's services in sort of creative influencer engagement, medical comms, integrated comms, all of that kind of stuff. They're going to get the market access. But this is interesting. It's Real Chemistry's first acquisition in over a year. It's the first big investment they've made since the sort of majority owner of their business, which is New Mountain Capital, put funds into the agency in the next sort of chapter of their growth. They made the initial investment about 6-7 years ago. It's a very, very big fund. It's sort of over 50 billion in assets that are under management. And Real Chemistry is just steadily growing and growing. They're $650 million globally, of which about 600 is in the US, which is now sort of, if you look at last year's figures, it's pushed them above Edelman. They're not one to be ignored, for sure.
No. They're definitely one of those huge PR firms that have a far less of a brand in the UK than they should have, don't they? They don't get talked about enough.
No.
And they've grown by acquisition relatively quickly. I mean, years go by, but they've been on the throttle of acquisitions for what, 5 years or so, and it's made
But this space that they're acquiring in the sort of data and analytics and planning tools, I think, is a real hot space in M&A.
Yeah, well, presumably it's not an easy area to acquire because everyone's trying to acquire in that area, right? So, yeah,
it's a tough area. The multiples around these sort of businesses are high, often a bit unrealistic. If you are lucky enough to own an independent agency in this sector of some sort of scale, you can almost set your price.
Right. So. Well, maybe we should give it all up and found one of those, Andrew. News from We.
Yeah, so We Communications, formerly Wagner Edstrom, have merged Hopscotch and fully integrated.
It's interesting because they bought Hopscotch a while back, didn't they? But now they've sort of finally.
Yeah. I mean, this often happens. You make an acquisition, you kind of leave them as separate entities, see how they sort of get on, and then slowly sort of turn them into one. So now, Hopscotch fully integrated into We. I mean, it's, they made the acquisition a few years ago. It was all around helping advise clients on social economic issues. Hopscotch are relatively small, 22 full-time employees. So
you see a lot of deals around that size of agency, don't you? It's a bit of a sweet spot, is it, that sort of agency? Because it's
sell at that size.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Or both way rounds, because I don't know, is it lowish risk? I don't know, but you see quite a few of those sorts of deals go through, don't you?
You do. I mean, sometimes it's because an agency has got to that size and they just don't feel like they've got the capability to push further organically. So they want to be part of something bigger because they recognise that sort of combined growth opportunity is bigger than just staying alone. I mean, it's relatively small. If you think about sort of 20-ish people would normally equate to around about 2 million-ish in fee income, which roughly speaking is a few $100,000 in EBIT profit. It's not much. It's not a huge size. So when you are that size, it limits the amount of buyers. Often they're trade deals at that size from sort of smaller trade buyers because they can afford them out of cash. But it's common, I think.
That's what I was alluding to, really. I guess it's not a lot of risk from the buyer's perspective, and from the trade buyer's perspective, I should say. And but it's not big enough for the PE guys, and it wouldn't be the right fit anyway, would it, for those sorts of things?
No, it's too small. But Hopscotch had a bit of a specialism in purpose-led initiatives that aligned with where we were at. So it was just a decent fit. It's not going to be the deal of the century for We in terms of the impact it's going to have, but it makes sense strategically. And
Precious Media and Sushi have new owners.
Yes, so this is an interesting deal. It's a double deal, two separate companies acquired at roughly the same time by MSQ.
And MSQ, a PE firm?
Yeah, MSQ are a trade outfit that are backed by PE. And you say that you might know sort of MSQ Sport and Entertainment, or Smarts, which we mentioned earlier, are owned by MSQ.
Correct.
So
MSQ, the owner of Smarts, for anyone who's not familiar with the background. So Smarts is part of a group, and and that group now includes Precious Media and Sushi as well.
Correct.
Right. Got there. Fine.
Got there in the end. Thank you for explaining that for us. Again, what they've done is acquired in a very, very popular area, and this is about expanding their production capabilities. So MSQ have their own production agency, which is called M3 Labs, which is pretty significant. It's sort of 130-ish people. This adds AI-powered and commerce-focused production expertise to their skill set. And they launched M3 Labs last year. It's about helping businesses make and manage and measure their marketing content, which is all about aiming to deliver the right sort of work faster and more effectively. So getting on to the acquisitions, Precious specializes in connected commerce. So it joins up a client's sort of digital ecosystems and helps them drive sales via it. And it works for some massive brands, Unilever, Mars, Diageo, Hilton Hotels. Whooshi is also in the production space, but what they do is they combine AI and data with global video production networks of, I think it's 16,000 creators across 120, 130 countries. So it enables you to produce video content at scale. So, I mean, these are two great acquisitions. I know Whooshi pretty well. Brilliant company. They were hotly contested, I can tell you that.
Right.
So MSQ acquiring them is a bit of a coup. And it really brings some depth into the, sort of the global production side of what MSQ is already doing. It brings in 3 or 4 experienced leaders from these businesses. So it's a content play. And as I said earlier, this is a really hot contested space. But MSQ are one of the most exciting acquirers out there. So
and another big business that's quite a lot over the years is FGS. So FGS Global have also acquired a firm recently.
Yeah, FGS Global have acquired Edmonds Elder. So Edmonds Elder, a digital first agency. This is about boosting what I would call integrated campaigning capabilities. They're a fascinating company. What they do is they specialize in understanding and identifying online audiences and then developing strategies to engage them and create targeted campaigns for them. So that what they're quite famous for is the Conservative general election campaign in 2015. They also worked on the Remain campaign for EU referendum. So, I mean, they've got big clients. It's not all political. They look after people like Deliveroo, Centrica, PepsiCo, Sky. But this is the first acquisition that FGS made since KKR took majority ownership last year. And if you remember the whole story, it was quite a complicated one. But WPP relinquished their stake. KKR took the majority stake from a minority position. And yeah, I mean, this is, you know, a formidable acquisition, really. Edmonds Elder were well regarded, well respected, lots of people after them. I don't know the official numbers, but I think it was a pretty lucrative deal for EE.
Right. And interesting news, Milk and Honey has had a share buyout of their US business.
They have. So their North American CEO, a guy called Paul Cohen, has sort of split out or spun out from Milk and Honey's US business to launch a standalone business called Attention Comms. It was a share buyout of Milk and Honey's US operations by Cohen and the American leadership team, who had been running it since it launched a few years ago. He's taken all the clients, taken the team and moved over, and I don't quite know what's happened. Clearly a difference in strategy, some sort of reason for that to happen, because Milk and Honey have already said that they're going to be announcing a new leadership team soon. They've got a great operation in the UK, Germany, Singapore. So yeah, not quite sure what's happened there, but sometimes when you set up an operation overseas, it doesn't always work out. And clearly they've found a way to part ways. I mean, maybe he just made them an offer that they couldn't refuse.
Exactly. I mean, be thankful for the times you had and all that sort of thing. SWNS Media Group have acquired Creativille, which is a fascinating deal, that one.
Yeah, they are. So SWNS, the media group, are the people who own 72 Point. They own OnePoll. They own SWNS, excuse me. So Creativille is a digital content business that was founded by Sam Barcroft. He's going to go in to become the group CEO at SWNS. He previously founded Barcroft Studios, which he sold to Future Publishing 2019-ish.
Okay.
This is a business that advises media clients on digital video strategy, IP development. I mean, it seems like a very sensible deal. It's SWNS is slowly sort of building out the range of services that they offer. They've got the Newswire and SWNS. They've got the research arm in OnePoll. They've got 72 Point, which is more about the print side of things. Now they're moving into the social and content space. So it's a natural evolution for a business like them. And Sam Balcroft is a well-respected and well-known entrepreneur within the industry.
And interestingly, he's going to become group CEO, isn't he? Of the
Yes.
whole, so that is.
So it's a bit of a leadership play as well. To me, it's a sign of intent of where SWNS are going as an organisation more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And Shamrock Capital have acquired Bento Group, which Bento Group is one of those businesses that's had a few. It's been involved in a few deals over the years, isn't it? And this is the latest.
Yes. So they're a stakeholder management firm. They're US based, but they've got offices in London, Brussels, Ireland, Hong Kong, Singapore. Shamrock Capital, they're LA-based private equity. They've taken a majority stake in Pentus, in the original 6 companies from Pentus. So when Pentus sort of founded 2021, they were formed from the merger. This is quite complicated, probably quite boring, but they were formed from the merger of Ballast Research, Hamilton Place Strategies, Flag Media Analytics, Alva, Gotham Research Group, and Decode M. And that happened a few years ago. They then acquired Hume Brophy, the public affairs firm. They then acquired Copperfield, which is a brand consultancy. Look, I think the sort of summary of this deal is it's going to supercharge their buy and build. So you're going to see a lot more acquisitions. They're now up to sort of 350-ish full-time employees, of which 75 are in London. Global revenues are now exceeding $100 million. So yeah, it's just a story of acquisitiveness, really, with lots more to come.
Right. And just to finish off, a bit of an update on the Omnicom IPG takeover from the UK Competition and Markets Authority.
Yeah, not quite finishing off. I've got a few more after this. I'm sorry. Yes. So yeah, I mean, just a bit of an update on Omnicom IPG, which I'm sure most people will be familiar that it's happening. The next sort of stage has happened over the summer, which is the UK Competitions and Markets Authority have given the green light to Omnicom acquiring Interpublic, which is obviously a rival holding company. Interestingly, for both of these companies, the UK is their second largest market after America. And this decision, which was made at the start of August, essentially means that it's been determined that the merger will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in the UK market. So all being well, it looks like the deal's going to close, as they said it would, by the end of this calendar year. The US regulators, which is the biggest market, have already approved this deal. Then now what they need is clearances from 3 more markets, the most significant of which is the EU. But there's no reason really why it won't happen. It's just what you have to do when you do these things.
Fine. Well, for my notes, that's all we had. So over to you, Andrew. What else you got for us?
These are my surprise ones for you. So Publicis have acquired Bespoke Sport and Entertainment, experiential marketing agency, obviously in sport. They're going to become part of Publicis Sports. They're a US-based agency, 25-ish people. I think what this story is all about is a bit of a renewed sports push for Publicis. You know, they face strong competition from M&C Saatchi Sport and Entertainment. MSQ Sport and Entertainment is more of an emerging agency in this space.
And sport's hot, isn't it? And it has been for a few years, and it remains hot. So,
and it's a big few years. Well, I guess it's always a big few years for sport, but this year's and next year particularly big focus in the US, especially. So yeah, Publicis actually earlier this year they acquired Adopt, which is a sports marketing agency. So it's the second acquisition in this space.
Right.
And then the last one I want to talk about is Teneo. Is it Teneo or Teneo? I never know, but it doesn't really matter. They have sold a minority stake to LGT Capital Partners. So, I mean, it's a slightly confusing deal, slightly complicated deal. Reportedly, it values them at 2.3 billion, which is big, obviously. They bill themselves as a global CEO advisory firm, not a comms agency anymore, which I think is also interesting and perhaps partly the reason for their success. So the proceeds from this go to CVC Partners, who are the majority PE owner. Some of it will go to management as well. CVC is still the majority shareholders. So we don't actually know what stake they've sold or why, really. It's just a sort of cash injection into the business. Right. If we just go back in time, in 2019, so sort of 6 years ago, they sold their majority stake to now, sold their majority stake to CVC. And the former majority owners, who were BC Partners, got out after being involved for nearly 5 years. And that deal valued now, which at the time has over 40 offices, headcount of 1,700 people, at more than 550 million. At the time, according to reports, they paid 276 million for it. Moving on to LGT, they've got about 100 billion in assets under management, so they're sizable. And really what we've seen is that Teneo are just growing and growing and growing, mainly off the back of acquisitions, obviously some organic success and growth as well, as they develop this positioning as a global advisory firm to the world's top business leaders and companies. And they're operating now across 5 pillars: so strategy, finance, political risk, and campaigns. They own Blue Rubicon, they own Stockwell. When they did those deals, which were 10 years ago now, they sort of doubled in size. Then they added Pendema Communications. A couple of years ago, they bought Talken, which was sort of reported as a 60-70 million pound deal. So Teneo is now sort of 60 million-ish company. I mean, it's a phenomenal success story. Yeah. Off the back of this, they've made a strategic investment in a business called Altius 8. It's a founding strategic investment for this advisory company, which specializes in media and entertainment. So this is going to combine their issues and advisory capabilities with a really deep sector expertise to help rights holders, investors, leading global companies unlock growth in this area. They got big clients, even though they're just starting out. So people like Manchester United, Formula One. It's going to help big companies maximize their value of these sort of sports partnerships. It's going to enable rights holders to scale revenue. It's going to help advisors figure out where to deploy their capital and how to get stronger returns. So it's interesting. I mean, the figures haven't been released, so we don't know how significant they are, but clearly what Teneo are going to do is provide Altius 8 with a strategic platform to help them connect globally and to help accelerate what they're doing and to scale their capabilities. I would think they're taking a pretty big chunk in the company in return for that. But what a platform sort of launch a new business.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is your lot. It's been a busy summer.
It has. Teneo has become a beast, as this podcast was, I suppose. So, Andrew, thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. We'll be back in about 4 weeks' time, folks, for an update, as you say, Andrew, as we approach the golden quarter.
Look forward to it, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, when's golden quarter's the 4th quarter, right?
Yeah.